Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I'm going to do a little bit of paint pouring. This is literally the second time I am doing this, and if you're curious to see the first time I tried paint pouring, I do have that video posted as well. And in that video, I mentioned that I wanted to try my hand at paint pouring to use up some of the acrylic paints that I have been sitting around for a bit, and I thought it would be a great way to not just use up the paint for the sake of using up the paint, but to actually create something that I can give as a gift as well. And so I do want to caveat everything with saying, as I mentioned, this is literally the second time I'm doing this. So that should give you an indicator that I am no expert at this. So if you want to learn how to do this properly, there are so many artists, proper artists here on YouTube who have great tutorials. And that's where I learned a lot of these techniques. So what I'm starting off with is this 4x4 coaster, and I just started by laying down a foundation of white paint, and then just loosely, with not a ton of rhyme or reason, poured some of my colored paints, and today I'm working with pinks and gold. And I use my palette knife just to graze slightly that white paint over top of the color, just to give it a thin swipe, and that helps to get some lacing and some of the cell structures that you'll see a little bit more prominently in a moment here. And then I start blowing that out to bring the colored paint to the surface, and you get this sort of marble effect, or the marble look here. And what I'm trying to do when you see me dabbing paint off of my mat onto the coaster is I'm just trying to get good coverage of paint across this entire coaster. And when I torch it, you can see those little cells start to come to the surface. And basically what's happening when you torch your paint like that is you are bursting little air bubbles. And when those air bubbles burst, it reveals the paint underneath. And it creates these beautiful organic looking cells. And part of what's creating those cells is the formulation of the paint, because I've mixed into my acrylic paints a product called Floetrol, which is a paint additive that is readily available at the hardware store or off of Amazon, which is where I got mine. And normally house painters will add this to regular house paint in order to extend the open time of the paint so that it hides any brush marks, and it doesn't necessarily thin down your paint, but it helps to have that paint move a little bit better, and it doesn't reduce the any of the binding agents within the paint. And which is key, because you want, as you're manipulating your paint, you want it to still dry really nicely and not crack or lift. And especially since, at least for this acrylic pouring method, the paint works better if it's looser. So to that mix of paint, acrylic paint and Floetrol, I've also added distilled water. And so if it's too watered down, then you might lose too much of the binding agent within your acrylic paint, and that might cause, as the paint dries, it might cause it to crack. And that's definitely, you don't want that. So the Floetrol helps to kind of add the whatever chemical reaction is happening to create those cellular structures, it's helping to create that, but it's also helping to loosen the paint a little bit, increase the open time so that it moves around more freely, and maintain the the amount of like the binding agent within the acrylic paint as well. So in terms of ratios, there's lots of different recipes out there. The one that I stuck with, which was easy for me, and I don't really measure it, so it's just kind of eyeballing it. But I roughly aim for 2 parts of Floetrol to 1 part of paint. And then I add enough distilled water to get it to a consistency that feels like it's going to pour really well. So basically when you pour onto this, your paint is so thin that it doesn't really leave a trace. So as you're pouring, it just melds right into, what you're pouring into. And so that's something I'm still playing with. So there are things that obviously I'm still learning because, this is only the second time I've done it. And so I'm just passing on to you what I've learned and what I'm learning through experience. But I'm laying down this initial white layer, and I'm torching it just to get the bubbles out initially. And then I'll pour my color paints here. And so you can see when I pour this, it goes right into the paint beneath it. It doesn't sit on top or create any sort of trace, so that all of this paint, when they touch each other, they can basically move as one. And I think that's the consistency that you're aiming for. And as I graze this white paint over top of the colored paint, it's going to create some lacing. And you can already tell even before I torch, but it will become more prominent after torching, the bubbles that will get popped and create those beautiful cells that we're going for. And when you blow your paint, you're kind of revealing the colored paint that's beneath that white that was sort of scraped over top. And so the white kind of gives you that lacing effect. And so I just do a combination of blowing the color around and then tilting the paint off of the edge. Now, one thing I'm playing with still, I haven't quite got the hang of it because I think being a little bit stingy with my paints. But whenever you see me dabbing from the paint from my mat onto the coaster, I'm just trying to fill in areas where the paint hasn't touched, just so that I can get 100% coverage on the top and on all 4 sides of the coaster. And I think what I need to aim to do next time I do a pour is to just be generous with the paint and not worry about being wasteful. Because at the end of the day, it's actually not a lot of paint, considering I have mixed it with 1 part of paint to 2 parts of Floetrol. So it's more Floetrol than paint. And so I should really kind of try to work myself out of that mindset and just try to get enough paint on here so that it moves, because I feel like sometimes when I tilt it to move it around, it's hard to get the paint to cover, the entire coaster and run off all 4 edges. But it's so much fun. And you can see with that Floetrol, those cells that appear after you torch it and kind of burst all of those air bubbles. And the thing that I'll experiment more with also is different techniques, because I'm just doing just some simple I don't know if this is considered like a Dutch pour, but there's so many different pour techniques. You can do a dirty pour, you can do a flip cup, you can do traveling cup pour, you can do so much. And normally, like on a Dutch pour, when you watch artists work on a larger canvas, they'll use a hairdryer to blow out the color, but on such a small palette like this, I think I would blow all of the paint off. And so Even the little bulb, kind of pushes air out, even that is pretty strong. So I find just blowing with my mouth to be sufficient. But this is just so much fun, and I will definitely be doing more of this. I want to create at least a few more sets to give as gifts, but this year. But I think I'll continue on with this just to learn some different styles, learn some different techniques. I don't see myself working on a larger canvas, but I do leave room for that because you never know. But I like creating these little sets of 4 as gifts because they're fun and fast to make, and I think they look, even for like literal, newbie beginner like me, I think they all still look pretty darn cool. So these are dry to the touch. I'm gonna actually let these dry and completely cure for another couple weeks before I actually seal it to make it water resistant and heat resistant. That way you can actually use this as a coaster and not damage the artwork that's on there, the paint that's on there. Now I did have leftover paint from my pouring session, and so what I did was I just poured it onto some cardstock and just moved it around and blew it around and torched it, all the same things. And now I have these panels that I can use for art journaling, for card making. I did pour it onto 120-pound heavyweight cardstock, so nice sturdy cardstock. And then whatever paint was left over on my mat, I just smushed that panel into. So I definitely need to not worry about wasting paint because I can always use it on extra panels like these. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I know it's a little bit different from my paper crafting, but I'm having a blast, and I hope that you are too. Definitely check out some of those other channels. I'll leave links to them in the description box below. Thanks so much. Until next time, happy crafting and have a fantastic day. Bye.